I used to believe that death was the end, that when we closed our eyes, everything would shut off, like turning off a bedroom light. But I did close my eyes. I did die, and I opened them in another place. A place with no sun, yet filled with light. A place where every soul begins, not ends. I was only 5 years old, too young to understand life or death, far too small to imagine leaving this world because of a car. But it happened on a morning that seemed like any other. And then I was taken somewhere no book had ever described, no one had ever spoken of. A garden of souls in full bloom, where every glimmer of light carried an ancient whisper, as if every living being held its secret code. I had accidentally stepped into the blueprint of creation. Why would a child be shown such a mystery? Why not a scientist, a priest, or someone at the end of their life? Why me? I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that when that light looked into me, it tore through every question I had ever buried in my heart. And in that same moment, I knew one thing for certain. No soul is meaningless, not even the smallest one, not even mine. But what brought me to tears wasn't the beauty of that place. It was what I saw next. A truth that left me breathless. A secret that made me understand why some people, even after death, can't let go, and why some souls are never even born. Have you ever wondered where your soul came from and why you were chosen to exist? Wait for what comes next. What I witnessed will make you see this world in a way you never have before. I was born in a small town, the kind where dusty red roads stretch out forever, and adults are always in a hurry. The name Nathan Miller didn't mean much, just as ordinary as the life I was living. I was the quiet kid, the one who barely spoke, who'd sit alone by the window just to watch sunlight drift through the air. I never understood why I didn't enjoy roughhousing like the other boys, why I didn't want to shout or compete or prove who was better at what. I only liked the silence. I liked listening to the wind chase itself through the leaves. And I liked thinking about things no one ever taught me. Where did I come from? Why am I here? My mother was always busy. Her voice carried the scent of coffee and to-do lists. My father was more like a shadow, gone early, home late, and always trailing the smell of machines and grease. They loved me, I know they did, but distantly, like love you leave on the table and hope it's enough. Once I asked my mom, "Mom, was I someone else before I was born?" She chuckled and shook her head. "Don't be silly, Nathan. That's just weird talk." I didn't say anything else, but the question didn't go away. I remember so clearly the feeling of not belonging anywhere. Even at school, sitting among noisy kids, it always felt like I was watching through a glass. Everything felt distant, foreign. I remember once seeing a cloud shaped like an eye staring down from the sky. I stood under it for 15 minutes, unable to move, not knowing why my chest felt like it was folding in on itself, like someone was watching, like someone was waiting. And then, without warning, the day came, the day everything changed. It was a lazy weekend morning. The sun hadn't even finished rising over the roof. My brother stood across the street, waving at me to come over. Mom was calling everyone to get ready for the grocery store. I remember feeling so excited that we were going to get cream-filled donuts. I climbed onto my little red plastic tricycle, the one I proudly called my galactic racer, and I tore down the slope in front of our house with all the speed a 5-year-old heart full of wonder could summon. But as I shot out from the shadow between two parked cars, I only had time to see the headlights flare. The loudest sound wasn't the crash, it was the scream from inside my own heart. Not now! Not yet! And then, silence. No more spinning wheels, no birdsong, no sound at all. Just a thick, impenetrable darkness, as if someone had flipped a switch on the entire world. I didn't know what had happened, but deep down, I knew I had just left something important, something I hadn't yet fully lived. And that was the moment when all the questions I had ever carried began to find their answers, but not in words, in light. A light that was waiting for me on the other side of that silence. Have you ever felt like you were part of something far greater, yet you didn't know what to call it? Keep listening, because what came next was something no one still alive has ever spoken of, and yet, somehow, we all long to remember it. I don't remember falling. I don't remember the scream, the impact, or any physical sensation that people would call pain. All I remember is that one moment I was pedaling, watching my brother's bright smile across the street, and the next, Everything was being pulled into a kind of black hole. No noise, no blood, just a soft motion toward the unknown. It didn't feel like I was yanked out of the world. It felt like someone gently lifted me out of it. Everything around me began to fade, like a window fogging up with mist. Sound vanished. No cars, no voices, no rustling leaves. Every physical sensation peeled off me like an old coat. And yet, strangely, I was still aware. I knew exactly where I was. And then I saw myself. I saw myself, a small child lying still on his side in the road. The little red tricycle was flung far from the scene. People were rushing over. There were faint screams, like echoes from a different layer of reality. But I wasn't afraid. I wasn't panicked. There was only a quiet sense of separation, like watching a slow-motion film of someone you used to know, except it was your own body. It felt like I was standing just outside the door of myself, knocking, realizing no one was home anymore. That's when I understood. I had left. And then I wasn't there anymore. I wasn't looking down. The scene changed like a dream breaking into something new. I found myself resting against someone tall, still. I leaned my head on their shoulder like a drowsy child, drifting off. Their hair brushed the ground, silvery white, shimmering like moonlight. I wanted to turn and see the face, but there was no face. There was only light, but not ordinary light. This light was alive. It breathed. It knew me. And as I looked into it, I felt myself being drawn into a space where the concept of fear simply didn't exist. A place where words weren't needed, where I didn't have to explain who I was, where I came from, or what I wanted, because I was already known, completely, perfectly. We spoke, but not in English, not in any human language. We communicated through pure thought. Each exchange moved like a current straight into my awareness, not through ears, not through mouth, and not through time. I asked, "Where am I?" And instantly I knew, not as something I'd been taught, but as something I was unified with. I was in a state of transition. Not heaven, not hell, but a realm where the soul returns to remember who it is. I looked up at this being, this light. I didn't see eyes, but I felt a love so immense it nearly dissolved me. No conditions, no judgment, no limits, just a love that broke me open. And in that moment, I forgot I had ever been human. I was only a small spark of light, held gently within an eternal brilliance. But the journey wasn't over. The being, or maybe the light itself, leaned down, placed a hand upon my forehead, and without words said, "You need to see. There is something important waiting." I didn't ask what. Deep down, I already knew. Something was about to be revealed, something that would change how I saw life forever. Have you ever seen something so beautiful, so vast, that you forgot who you once were? In the next part, I'll take you to the place where souls don't just exist, they are born. I don't remember how I went. There were no footsteps, no tunnel of light, no gates of heaven swinging open like people often describe. Movement in that realm didn't happen the way our minds understand it. It wasn't linear or physical. It happened through something deeper, something only the soul could recognize. The idea of being ready to see. And once I was ready, I saw. Before me stretched a space with no horizon, no ceiling, no floor. And yet it was alive. Not alive like a forest or an ocean, but alive as a being breathing light. Every particle floating around me emitted its frequency. I couldn't hear it, yet I knew it was singing like a song without notes, a perfect harmony between silence and presence. In that moment, I felt something was watching me. Not the way someone stares, but more like the air itself knew me. Not just my name, my age, or my memories, but the things I had buried deepest, the things even I had forgotten. I turned to my right, and the being was still there. Not taller than me, but carrying the feeling of someone standing on the other side of all creation. There was no face, only a light, white laced with silver, sometimes gently tinted with rose. And yet, somehow, I still recognized the eyes. I couldn't see them, but I could feel them, looking straight into the deepest part of who I was. The being didn't speak aloud, but a sentence rolled into my soul like a crashing wave. You are part of the light, sent to learn, to remember, and to return. I didn't fully understand, but something deep within me trembled like a string that had finally been touched after years of silence. I asked, or rather, the thought simply rose, "Why am I being shown this? I'm just a child." And the being replied, "Precisely because you are a child." In that moment, I realized there is no such thing here as big or small, mature or not enough. There is only the willingness to receive the truth. Then the being reached out, not with skin or bone, but with a ribbon of light, fluid and soft. And the moment I touched it, everything around us began to shift. The space moved like layers of translucent waves sliding over one another. And we drifted, no footsteps, no sound, just a gentle slipping through reality, into a place beyond anything I had ever imagined. A space woven of light, currents of energy flowing from one layer to the next. And at the center of it all, I saw something unbelievable, a garden of souls, blooming. Each soul was a spinning light, turning slowly like miniature stars, each with its frequency. Some were radiant and strong, overflowing with the energy of love. Others were delicate and shimmering, like they were just learning how to shine. And some were dim, curled in, trembling softly. But I didn't sense they were abandoned. They were being healed. No soul here was judged. Each one was treated like a seed, growing, unfolding, becoming. I asked, "What is this place?" And the being answered, gently, like a breeze moving through my heart. "This is where souls are formed from light, from lessons and love. No one is created without reason." I looked down at my hands. They were glowing too, no longer human in shape. I was returning to my original state, no name, no age, no gender. Only one thing remained within me, the intention to exist. Have you ever wondered what your soul once was before you ever took form in this world? In the next part, I'll share what makes the difference between a spark that is born and a soul that is chosen to return. The being didn't hold my hand, yet somehow I knew I was being led. There were no steps, no roads, only the sensation of drifting through layer after layer of knowing. Each layer felt like a different dimension of reality, lighter, vaster, more real than anything I'd ever called real. And then we arrived. A place I believe not everyone is meant to see. If you imagine that souls are created in some golden chamber, crafted by the hands of a mighty creator, then you might be disappointed. But if you believe that the soul is born from the fusion of light, memory, and vibration, then you're closer to the truth than you've ever been. I stood in the middle of a space where colors were alive, not static. They spun, danced, and touched one another, birthing new streams of light. Each of these new rays carried its rhythm, like music made not of sound, but of pure intention. The being looked at me, and without a word, I understood. This was how souls were created at the intersection of the purest intentions. And these intentions weren't fleeting desires like, "I want cake" or "I want praise." No, the intentions here were like sacred codes. Things like, "I want to learn to love, even after being betrayed. I want to forgive, even if I've been forgotten. I want to understand the beauty of limits through the limits of this body." Every soul was a lesson that had chosen itself. No one was forced to live. No one was pushed into the human world. Every light that left this realm carried with it a promise. I will not forget who I am. But most do. I was shown a massive current, a river of millions of tiny souls streaming out from the light, entering what the being called gateways to life. These were new human births. Each soul slipped into a physical body like stepping into a dim cage. And the moment they touched Earth, they forgot, completely. They forgot the promise. They forgot the light. They forgot the original intention. And so the journey began again. And so they must learn all over again. They must hurt, they must fail, they must lose, until slowly something in them begins to remember. Oh, I came here to learn how to love, not to control. I came here to let go, not to possess. I came here to forgive myself. I saw one soul enter life as an abandoned child. It would grow up in loneliness, always wondering, why did no one choose me? But 28 years later, that same soul would become a mother, adopting forgotten children, because she had once known that pain, not as a theory, but in her bones. I saw another soul choose a short life, only to live until age 8. Its death would awaken an entire town, teaching people how to love, how to pay attention, how to cherish every single day. No soul was wasted. No one was in the wrong place. There were only journeys, waiting to be understood. I whispered, "Then what about me? Who am I?" And the being replied, "You are the one who remembers, and through your remembrance you will rekindle the light in those who have forgotten." That sentence melted me. In that instant, I understood every one of us was once light, once pure essence. But it is the storms of this human life that give that light its depth. And the most beautiful light isn't the one that's never been broken. It's the light that has been broken and still chooses to shine. The being pointed toward a distance, to a soul spinning slowly, as if waiting. There was something hauntingly familiar about it. And then I knew it. It was me. It was my soul before I was born. Still, expectant, writing a sacred intention. I want to be loved, but I will begin by learning to love myself. My heart burst open. I looked back at my life as a 5-year-old, all the things I had resented, all the moments I felt alone, all the times I asked why I didn't belong. Now they made sense. It wasn't that I was lost in this world. It was that I chose to come here. There was a lesson left unfinished. A part of my soul is still growing, and this time, I had started to remember. Have you ever felt like you didn't quite belong in your own life? In the next part, I'll tell you the most important thing I was shown, the one truth that can change how you face pain and how you understand your very existence. I used to think life was just a string of events: school, growing up, making money, falling in love, losing things, and then dying. But standing in that garden of light, I was shown something entirely different. Life doesn't just happen. It is written by our very souls. Not a fixed destiny, but a series of turning points is crafted through small, seemingly insignificant choices. The being of light touched me not with hands, not with weight, but with a presence so gentle and formless it stirred the deepest layer of my existence. And then a new stream of light appeared like a massive spherical screen surrounding me. There were no buttons, no controls, yet the images began to play. It was my life, from a perspective I had never seen before. I saw myself curled up behind a door, my parents arguing in the living room. I thought I was just a silent witness, but here I saw my heart glow. A soft beam of light spread from me, reaching them, slowing time, just enough for my mother not to say the cruelest thing she almost did. I was 4 years old. I didn't do anything, but my quiet existence, my silent love, shifted the moment. I saw myself at 6, on the school playground, sitting next to a boy who'd just been yelled at. I broke my cookie in half and gave it to him. It felt like nothing, but here I was shown that boy, 20 years later, remembering that moment and deciding not to end his life. A cookie, a child, a life preserved. I had no idea, but the light knew. The being whispered, "No act born from love is ever too small." My heart opened again. I was then shown my moments of anger, envy, and selfishness. And still, there was no judgment. No one condemned me. But I felt the full ripple of those emotions. The way they had touched others, changed them, wounded, or discouraged them. I wasn't punished. I was simply shown the truth of what I had caused, who I had affected, and how. And in that truth, I understood. Every soul leaves a mark. No one passes through another's life without leaving a trace, not even a glance, a sentence, a well-timed silence, a handheld, a moment released. The being of light showed me one final vision, a web of souls, all interconnected, not by blood, not by family ties, but through the moments when we helped each other. Remember that we are light. I saw hundreds of souls who had brushed against mine on sidewalks, in grocery stores, in hospitals, in dreams. They didn't consciously remember me, but their souls did, and so did mine. It was a matrix of love, connecting all of us through threads of light, as thin as mist, yet unbreakable. I realized then, life is not a task to complete, but a current to feel. We did not come here to become perfect. We came to remember that even in our most broken moments, we have always been enough. Have you ever felt that something small you did may have saved someone, even if you never knew it? In the next part, I'll share the moment I wanted to stay in that place forever, but was turned away. And the reason I had to return wasn't because my life was unfinished, but because one soul was still waiting for me to live it. I no longer wanted to return. There was no reason strong enough, no memory powerful enough to pull me away from that light. Here, I was fully seen, unconditionally loved. I wasn't a mistake, or the strange child, or the one who didn't belong. I was an essential part of the light that moved through the fabric of the universe. And for the first time in my existence, I didn't want to go anywhere else. I just wanted to stay. I turned to the being. I couldn't form words, but the light within me whispered, "Please, let me stay. I want to stay." There was no answer at first, only a silence so deep it felt like even time held its breath. Then the being leaned in close, and what I felt pierced through me like ice and fire. "Not yet." I asked, "Why? It's better here. It's more beautiful. I'm not afraid, not in pain, not alone." And the being, with a stream of light as soft as spring wind, gave me a vision, not through my eyes, but directly into my being. In that vision, I saw a person, faint, small, huddled in the shadows. No clear face, no clear age, just the unmistakable feeling that this soul was waiting for me, desperately. And I understood, without knowing how, that this soul would not be lit unless I returned. "You still have a promise," the being said. "You chose to return, to complete it." I didn't remember when I made that choice, but my heart did, my soul did, and I bowed my head and said yes. Have you ever felt like there's a part of you still waiting for you to come back, to hold it, to forgive it, to save it from the past? In the final part, I'll tell you what happened when I woke up, and why, from that moment on, I never lived the same way again, and why I've never seen life as something to take for granted. I didn't wake with a jolt. It wasn't like in the movies. No gasping for air, no soaked sheets, no sudden flailing. I opened my eyes as if they'd never been closed, as if the light had only just faded, and I was still seeing this world through the same eyes my soul had used to see the other. The hospital ceiling was mottled with sunlight, the smell of antiseptic, the beep of heart monitors, my mother's breath trembling near my ear. But it all felt distant, as if I were borrowing this body again, just for a little while. And this time, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't tell anyone what I'd seen. They'd say it was a hallucination, a fever dream from a child recovering from trauma. But I didn't need them to believe, because I believed in myself. I lived differently. I no longer feared being left out on the edge of the classroom. I no longer ached when my parents argued in the other room. I began to look at people as if I knew, deep down, that they too were light. Light that had simply forgotten its name. When I was 11, I started keeping a journal. I called it the Light Notes. Feelings, impressions, flashes of memory so deep I couldn't speak them, I wrote them down. No one ever read them, but I wrote, because I remembered the promise. At 17, I found a group of people who had experienced near-death too. For the first time, I heard others describe the very things I thought I'd imagined. The field of light, the invisible touch, the knowing that bypassed the mind. And I realized we were chosen not just to remember, but to share. By 25, I began telling my story, not to be believed, but so that those who had forgotten they were light might remember. I spoke at schools, hospitals, rehab centers, prisons. I never preached, I just told the truth. And every time I saw someone's eyes light up for even a brief moment, I knew I had touched a part of their soul they thought was gone. I'm not special. I have no powers. I'm just someone who died once and chose to come back, to live more truthfully, to love more deeply, to forgive more easily, and to stop fearing pain. because I now know the light is always there, even in the darkest cracks. And you can remember too. All it takes is readiness. Are you ready to look at your life not as a person trying to survive, but as a soul learning how to love? If so, then your awakening has already begun. Right here, right now.